Welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation happens. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride from author to author. We want to give you an experience where you learn and enjoy the conversation. Authors tell you about their journey, you learn about new books, and at the end of the day, you go home with a smile on your face because the Author's Porch is a beacon of light, bringing you home to the family you never knew you had. We hope that you enjoy the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Author's Porch, where every great conversation happens. I'm CJ.
I'm Elizabeth. How are y'all doing this morning, this wonderful Saturday morning? How are you, CJ?
I am doing good, I
Great.
think. Well, it depends.
You think it depends on what? Depends on what?
It depends on how much of this coffee I'm gonna get down in my system. Like, I need more coffee.
Okay, well, I don't drink coffee, so I'm
That's
doing
sacrilege,
orange.
honey. That's
So.
sacrilege. That is sacrilege. So, how was your week?
I had a wonderful week. Doing some, connections out there and doing some different things, connecting with other authors and trying to figure out how to do some different things. Took a master class that was very, very exciting that I had got in my email. And I just happened to open it up in my email and see the master class with the two gentlemen. What was their names? Vamsi and Brennan. I think
Brendan.
they are
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, if you have not taken one of their free courses, I mean, it's free, and there was a lot of people on the line, and we had an amazing time doing different things, such as we had they had puzzles, they had us doing different things of picking out different. It was amazing. So
Yeah.
the master class is amazing. I mean, it was really good. It was a free 1 hour class, and it was impactful. I didn't even want to get off. I was like, there's no more, you don't have any more. But it was really good. So that master class was really good.
Yeah, I love Brendan and Vamsi. I took their free class at one point, and then I saved up for like a year, and I took their paid master class, which is a 12-week course, and it changed the trajectory of my whole speaking career. And
Right.
I'm going to tell you that I am addicted to those guys because they just have this this I don't even know, this infectious personality. Like
Mm-hmm.
this personality that you want to be around because there is nothing but positivity. Nothing but positivity all around. So, yeah, I'm telling you, if you can ever get in on their free one that they give out just to kind of introduce, and here's the thing, usually the free is just telling you what they do. No, this free one that they do is literally giving you skills.
Right.
So, yeah, I love it as well.
Well, we
My
talked
week,
about communication yesterday, and it
yeah,
was about effective communication. And sitting there listening to, you think you kind of got it. You know how to communicate. You know how to talk on this. When they broke it down to ground level, I was like, whoa! It was really impactful and powerful. So if you have not done one of their free courses that they give out, and I mean it's free, all you have to do is sign up for the Zoom call and show up. It's free. So
yeah. Well, I spent my week learning as well. I entered author ad school,
what?
Brian Cohen and Best Page Forward.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was doing the free thing for
Okay.
the past 6 months. They
Mhm.
offer a 5-day author ad. This is through Amazon ads, okay? And Amazon actually endorses his ad school. They say they promote the Best Page Forward's ad school. And, I took it 3 different times, and
Mhm.
they do it every quarter. Every quarter, he does it. Best Page Brian Cohen and Best Page Forward do it. And, I took it 3 separate times, Every quarter, I jumped on it. I jumped on that 5 days and tried to learn more and learn more and learn more, and finally, I footed over the money and I joined ad school. So I've been in ad
Awesome.
school learning how to rewrite my blurbs, learning what ad copy basically are the words on the page that are
Mhm.
gonna sell.
Okay.
What takes an emotion? What forces an emotion from a person? Because I'm gonna tell you, emotions create sales, right? So
Mm.
I've been in ad school for about a week now, and I'm rewriting my blurb, learning what keywords catch Amazon's algorithm to show up in certain places that people that buy books like mine are buying books. And then, of course, I got this.
Self-publish and email marketing. Okay.
Yeah, this is Brian Cohen's book. I backed this Kickstarter that he did.
So I'm
I'm
assuming that you're
huge.
reading it because I see the dollar hanging out of it.
I thought that was appropriate for a bookmark, for
Right?
this
Okay.
bookmark right here, because everyone thinks that email marketing is dead, but this is the only audience that you own. If we say something wrong in this live, Facebook
Oh, yeah.
could wipe me off the face of
Absolutely.
the earth. So I was like, I follow a lot of Brian Cohen stuff because one, if you ever do the 5-day author ad challenge, let me just tell you that his voice will be in your head.
Hmm.
Every time you do something, his voice will be in your head. So that's what I've been doing this week. So it's been a productive week for both of us, it sounds like.
Yes, it has been a very productive week. I'm excited because I did win 30 minutes for with them, and I get to. I had to do three people that I wanted to. I had to get their. What they did good and what they didn't do good, and kind of write it down and jot it down, and they're gonna help me work that. So I got 30 free minutes. So I was excited about that, and the people that were on there, awesome people. The people that we
Yeah.
interacted with, it was really good. So productive week to say the less. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that I fell a little bit this week to some negativity,
Okay.
and I allowed it to kind of creep inside my soul a little bit. And then I had my coming to Jesus meeting with myself last night after I closed off all the computers and I said, you gotta reel it back in, CJ. That's not you. You got to stop allowing it to get to you. Let other people do what they're gonna do. And I talked to a few mentors of mine, you being one of them.
Yeah.
And I decided, you know what, y'all are right. I need to stop getting all in my feels and being butthurt over some that's what we say in the military, butthurt, um, over some goofy stuff,
Hmm.
and don't I was being a little bit childish over some things that were hurting my feelings, and
And CJ, it's not the first time that and everybody goes through that. So
yeah,
and even when I go through certain things or certain passage things in my life, I just say, is it important at that time?
yeah,
And am I going to allow this to hinder my day, my week, my month, or what I'm doing? So I
mhm.
think we all go through, those different types of phases.
And I think it's important that that gets talked about and everyone talk through those, and they have
Hmm.
someone to talk about no,
Yeah.
have someone to talk to about those issues because you need those people that are on the inside with you. So,
Yeah. You need
but
it. Absolutely.
enough about us. Our guest has arrived. We have author
Okay.
chat today, and it's not just about us author chats.
Oh, yeah.
It's about a lot of things because we go through so many things, so many people, and girl, we talk all the time.
We
But
talk all the time, but
Roy,
it's about the authors. It's about what we can
yeah,
do to help each other, to bring each other, and to glean from each other. So it's about that.
yeah, we were gonna have two authors with us chatting today, but I think we're only gonna have one. I haven't heard back from the other author that signed up, so there's only gonna be three of us. So
Okay.
today we have Rory. Why can't I say the R right today? Roy Griffiths with us today. Roy, how are you doing? Wait, let me, can I unmute? Oh, you have to unmute yourself. Let me see if it, there
Try
he goes.
Okay. I'm okay, I guess. Of course, my webcam let me down, so I was sitting here using some Coast Guard vocabulary as I troubleshot the issue. Anyway, I got the headsets on. I'm fine. Kind of glad to be here. It's I don't know where y'all are. You're in Florida, right, CJ?
No,
Am I right?
I'm in Florida.
Ms.
Elizabeth.
Johnson's.
Yes.
Okay, that was my mom's name.
Oh,
CJ, where are you? If we can.
I am in the great country of Texas.
country of Texas.
I'm in Texas too. I live in a little town called Murchison, about 642 people.
Wow.
Been here about almost, well, I've been a little over 4.5 years. But here, oh, you were where?
Yeah, no, I'm on the border by the sea in Brownsville.
Okay. All right, you were way away from me.
The
Well, where I
southernmost
am,
tip.
it's gray and misty, but I'm looking out on some really beautiful green stuff. So I'm glad to be here.
Well, we're so glad that you came and joined with us today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself since this is your first time introducing you to our audience? We would love to learn more about you real quick.
Oh man, the pressure's on. Let's see. Uh, being like most authors, I think I don't probably enough of a chance to talk about myself, so I'd probably suck up the whole hour with my life story, but nobody needs that. My dad was in the Air Force. I was born in Texas City. We were there 6 weeks, and then I moved, and so we moved a lot. You know, you're in the Air Force, CJ. You know what that's like. I don't know. I lost track of how many schools I was in, but probably every 2.5, 3 years I moved. And let's see. I wanted to be a writer ever since I was 10. Probably I don't know when you guys got touched by the gods, but my parents were having a rough time and they shipped me off to some grandparents that I didn't really know. Since we moved around, I didn't know most of my relatives very well, and so I was like this lost, confused, lonely kid in Tucson, Arizona, back a long time ago, and it wasn't much going on in Tucson. And my grandparents, bless them, they had no idea what to do with a kid like me. And my brother's with me, and this like sums up our entire relationship. But I remember once telling him, trying to say, so don't you want to talk about what's going on? I mean, like, isn't it weird that mom and dad are over there and we're here like grandparents and here we are in this strange school? And he looked at me and said, I don't want to talk about that. So that's like our entire relationship right there. But I had been a reader since I was probably about 4 or 5. And my dad, one of the things we would do was we'd watch the old Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movies, black and white 1930s Tarzan movies, on Saturday mornings. And he would be telling me about how they had been written by a guy named Edgar Rice Burroughs. And that was like, wait, people actually make these stories up? This isn't true? Well, once I got over that disappointment that there really wasn't a Tarzan, it started to be really cool that somebody made them up. So I'm wandering around Tucson in my lost little kid way, and I wander into a used bookstore because I already knew that books were cool. And I was probably looking for comic books, but there on a shelf, I see some books that say Edgar Rice Burroughs. Now, again, I'm older than y'all, but Edgar Rice Burroughs was the shiz in 1913 when he'd been like a cavalryman out west and done a lot of other things, but he was trying to support a family, and he saw some novel writing contest, and he came up with this story he called A Princess of Mars. And he, as far as we know, never really written anything before, but at the time it took pretty much took the world by storm. And it was the story of a cavalryman, ex-cavalryman in Arizona who somehow ends up in some mysterious Indian cavern, thinks he's dead, wakes up on Mars, boom, there he goes. And a lot of people hadn't read this, and it was great and it was gripping and exciting. And then he wrote Tarzan, and he became a worldwide sensation. But I didn't know all that. all I knew was Edgar Rice Burroughs. He wrote those. I thought he wrote those cool movies I saw as a kid. So I put down a quarter, picked up the first book. I got Princess of Mars. Somebody turned in this whole series of. There was like 11 books of Princess of Mars, and you guys are like me, like to drop into the used bookstore once in a while just for that smell, the old paper and glue and stuff. And I still remember how the book felt and how it looked. And so I thought I'd scored. I had a science fiction book, and so I pedal away, and I go into the back room of my grandparents' house where nobody would bother me. I spent a lot of time there. And I started reading this book, and like 10 hours later, I came back from Mars. I was a new man. Well, as much as you can be at 10, because the book had completely transported me. Just took me away from Tucson and my unhappiness and all that stuff. I'd been on Mars with John Carter, and we'd been, fighting the Tharks and doing all the other things that John Carter did in 1913. And I remember so clearly, I put the book down, and I basically, my feeling was this was magic. It was real magic. Even at 10, I knew that magic was made up, but this was real magic, And I remember very clearly deciding, this is magic I want to do. I want to be a writer. Never looked back. Ever since then, I've written. I've done all kinds of things, just as I'm sure you all have. I bookstore clerk, janitor. I was, just whatever it was to basically keep me from being a burden on society, pay the bills.
Now, did you go on to write science fiction? Is that the genre that you ended up loving to write in?
No. I think all young writers, first I wrote a terrible fan fiction version of John Carter stories. And I read a lot of science fiction. I read a lot of, gotta adjust that a little bit so I can see better. I started reading a lot of stuff, all the usual science fiction-y things. And then I branched out to different stuff. I have probably an unfortunate taste for pulp sorts of things because I like stories. I'm probably a terrible reader in that I like to know what happens. I don't necessarily read books for the beauty of the language or the metaphor or I just want to know what happens. I want to go on a journey with people I'm interested in. And if I don't like them at the beginning, perhaps I can at least like them toward the end,
Yeah.
So that tended to be more pulp type stuff. When I was in high school and some in college, I had to read, I was introduced to some literature stuff, which I found kind of tedious. And, I occasionally dip into some of the stuff. I've been married 3 times. Either have no pattern recognition or I'm a serial optimist, but regardless, my second wife liked to read the New Yorker, so I would dip into them once in a while. I'd be like, oh God, this John Cheever stuff is so incredibly boring. And so I didn't like boring stuff. So I'm going to actually answer your question. I just kind of would write. Eventually, I got to the point I just write whatever interested me. When I did recognize I needed some life experience. I didn't want to be a guy, the person who, there was this great line from a Harold Pinter play called Betrayal, and where this book editor is talking about some writer who writes books about a lonely writer who writes books about a lonely writer who writes, and I didn't want to be that guy. So one of the things I did was I making decisions. I decided I need to do something different. So I joined the Coast Guard, and then I heard about this program called the Rescue Swimmer Program they were starting, and I said, hey, that sounds kind of interesting. That sounds like an experience. So, I got to be Earl Flynn for about 3 years, jumping out of helicopters onto sinking boats and, and that kind of stuff. But all along the way I'm writing, right? So like when I was in the Coast Guard in San Francisco, which is very cold water to jump into, and there are a lot of sharks out there.
Yeah, I'll
For
pass.
instance, for instance,
I don't do open water. I don't do anything above my ankles,
mm,
unless it's a bathtub.
yeah,
I don't do
I
nothing,
sort
no type of water.
Oh,
I've lost my taste for it too. It's weird. Um, but like they know, everybody knew I wrote. You know, it's never been a secret. But they said, hey, we want you to write something for, say, the station newsletter. And I don't know why, but I had this idea, and and I wrote something called His Amphibian Hood. It's about a prince who thinks he's a frog.
oh,
It was just a little children's story, and it turned out really nice. And people liked
that's
it, and they were
cool.
like, and they were saying, when are you going to write your next children's book? I went, well, I already wrote one. I'm right now. I've got this great idea about this guy who's hunting for the vampire that killed his wife. You know, and that's why I don't have a writing career, because I maybe it's I get bored or something, but I just can't do the same thing over and over and over and over. It would make me crazy.
So I think me and Elizabeth totally feel you here, because as multi-genre authors ourselves,
Mm,
that is definitely a struggle. So
Mm-hmm.
Elizabeth has one children's book out, another one about to release, and she's currently writing a memoir and working on a young adult fantasy. And I am the
damn.
same way. I have memoirs, I have multiple children's books. I started out as a children's book author. I have a women's fiction. I have romance. I mean, we have the plethora of genres going on, and
Uh-huh.
we struggle at honing that in. I call it my ADD. Other people call it what they call it. And that is one of the struggles. And it's like some people say if you're multi genre, you need a pen name for each genre. And
Mm-hmm.
I say,
Mm-hmm.
well, then I've got to keep up with them. And well, I couldn't keep up
Much.
with my own name half the time. So how am I going to keep up with other stuff? So here's the dilemma. Do you honestly feel that your career is stunted because you're multi-genre, or do you feel that being multi-genre actually opens you up to a wider audience? Thoughts?
Um,
I think it opens us up to a wider audience. That's what I
uh-huh.
think. I think it
Sure.
opens you up, and you're able to, when you get a story, you're able to say, okay, this is romance. I'm able to write this, or this is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that. I think it opens you up. It makes you, exciting. That's what I
Okay.
think.
All right. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I'm with Ms. Johnson on this, because, like, for instance, my website and my Twitter stuff is about Roy M. Griffith's storyteller, because that's who I feel I am, and that's what I
Yeah,
do. I mean,
yeah.
you know, uh, um, the other part of my story is, I wrote plays, short stories. Then I got in drama in high school and I wrote plays. So I basically went where the approbation came from. So people started
Mhm.
responding to my one-act play, so I did that. And I've always loved movies. I think that movies are like the closest thing to a shared dream we can have,
Yeah,
especially if it's a good
yeah,
one, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That
yeah.
dark
It's
room,
got to be a
bunch
good
of
one.
people. Yeah,
That's a really good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we can all have that same emotional experience. We can laugh, we can cry. I think that's powerful too. So I pursued that for a bit. I actually ended up working in Hollywood for a year. Oh, cute dog.
Yeah, sorry, I can't help it. Everyone knows Elvis in this world.
Hey, Elvis.
Elvis.
He demands attention. But I agree with you, and I think that if you have the ability to write good screenplays,
Oh yeah.
take your stories there, because right now, what I'm noticing, and I am absolutely no um no expert in Hollywood. I have no ties to Hollywood, no knowledge of Hollywood other than what I see on my TV screen. But what I'm noticing, they are doing a lot of remakes
Mm-hmm.
of
Oh, mhm.
shows right now. So, what does that tell me in my novice brain? That tells me there is this inability or not a lot of good screenplays for them to pick from,
Right.
Um,
possibly. So, why are the authors, the writers, the people that their whole job is writing every day, why aren't they creating screenplays? Because people that their whole job is only screenplay writers.
Well, we think about
Maybe.
that. We think about that, CJ, and I just kind of this is how I feel, or I just came to feeling this is that When a writer is writing a book, you have to think of multiple ways that that book can be impactful for a lot of people. So your book I might not be able to actually want to read the book, but maybe your book, I want to do a play, or I want to listen to it in my car, or I want to do this. So it opens up a whole, the screenplays and doing, the performance, because your book, you have your title of your book, and that might be a good play that, people want to go see and see in action.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. And that is like kind of one of the nice things that's different than when I first started, writing short stories on a manual typewriter. And I mean, this was so long ago, I'd actually mailed them to magazines. I was trying to do all that stuff. But to answer your question, actually, about Hollywood, just my observation, part of it is, since Hollywood is a business, it's basically mostly about money, that people are it's much more dangerous to say yes to something than just say no. What if you say yes to this project and it fails, somebody's head's on the chopping block. So I think that's why I believe the remakes and even the homages, like Stranger Things at least was nice. I mean, it sort of paid homage, but it was unique at the time. But in a lot of cases, I think it's just, there's less, people's careers are less on the line. Well, everybody knows Charlie's Angels, so let's remake it. Or, and by the way, homage, I've decided, is a French word for steal. There was
I was going with it.
So it's a lot of risk averse stuff, which is in fact ultimately why I started writing novels. I never figured I was a novel writer, and I enjoyed writing screenplays, and I won at least one decent award with a screenplay, and I did sell a TV movie to Fox. But again, a lot of the stories you hear about Hollywood are in fact true. Most of the unpleasant ones. And this story I heard from other people, and then it happened to me, which was I sold this TV movie, an adaptation of a terrible Frank Herbert novel. So I'm actually glad it didn't get done. I got paid. It was great. I worked for a year, got in the Writers Guild, but I couldn't sell anything else. And then they fired the vice president at Fox TV who had bought the project. And the first thing they did was take his files and dump them in the trash. So, and I've spoken to a number of people, just whatever, doing it. But so after a year of that, I said, well, I gave it a good shot. I said I wanted to be a writer when I was 10, and by that time I was in like 38 or something. And I'd had a screenplay go all the way up the line to the president of Universal. He was the one who said no. And I've looked at that now, and it was actually a great thing. But, as a single dad, and I had to look around and go, well, it isn't like one of my fears, I don't know about you guys, one of my fears was I was going to die wishing I had tried. I didn't want to be the guy who died with as they used to say, a trunk full of stories they never did anything with, right?
Yeah.
It was the same with the rescue swimmer thing. I was a drama geek in high school. I didn't play sports. I didn't do anything. And the whole rescue swimmer thing was at the time, the second toughest school in the Navy. It was so new. The Coast Guard didn't have their own school, so they sent us to the Navy. And we're like training alongside the SEALs. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I could like quote some A.E. Housman poetry to these guys. There's like football players, but I realized I'd rather die knowing I tried. So fortunately I survived. That's all I can say about rescue swimmer school. I crawled my way through and I survived, and I did it for 3 years. But I looked at my screenwriting thing the same way. I said, I've written the plays, I've written screenplays. I think they're good screenplays. People like them, but I can't make a go of it. And real life says my kid needs, health insurance and, toys for Christmas. So I decided at 38, well, I gave it a good shot. I'm not, I may have wished it'd gone differently, but I did try. I gave it a really good, the old college try. And then for about a year, I substitute taught during the day, and I went to classes at night to learn PC stuff, which is one reason it annoyed me. My webcam didn't work because I should have been able to make that work. But to pay the bills for the last 20 years, I've done PC work, and it's great. Again, keeps me off the streets and out of the bars. And I still had that creative urge, and so I started getting up at 4:30 in the morning before work. I was living in California then. I had a really long commute, and so by the end of the day, I was wiped out. It's like that whole, I had to have some energy,
Yeah.
especially working with computers. I was staring at a screen all day. I was answering the damn phone. So the time I got home, pretty much the last thing I wanted to do was look at my computer. So I got up, and I found that by getting up early, I could get some writing done. And I just started writing for myself. And that's how I got into novels.
And I think that's the most important thing. And we did have a question in the comments, and you segmented right into it perfectly, Roy, because it said, what do you think about being a starving artist? Is it worth risking stability for your artistic pursuits? And I want to say yes and no, because what you have to do is you have to find that happy medium. And I think that, Roy, you just hit the nail on the head. You found that happy medium. You worked hard to put food on the table and to get your son health care, but you also woke up at 4:30 in the morning to write. So you made sure that you had enough stability to make sure, like, and I served in the military for 20 years, and I was a single parent for 11 of those 20 years, and I made sure that I put food on the table and my kids were taken care of, and I was up at 4:30 in the morning going to work. I couldn't write. I didn't start my writing career until after I retired. My kids were old enough to take care of themselves, and then I had time to start my writing career. So I made sure that I had that full stability. Once I had that full stability, now I still work a full-time job. My kids are in college now, and I have more time to write now.
Right.
So you have to slowly ease your way into it. Can you just say, forget all of your responsibilities? No, you have to find a happy medium. If you have to work a full-time job, if you can only get 30 minutes of writing in that day, you get that 30 minutes of writing in. You can't just say, I'm just not going to try. Like you said earlier, you have to try. There's a song, and I told my family, when I pass this song, because I'm not having a funeral, they're not going to show my body to anyone. I just want to be cremated. No funeral, no wake, no nothing. Don't cry for me, Margarita, Angelica, whatever. Just let me go, celebrate me now while I'm here. But just play this one song, and it's by One Republic, and it's called I Lived. Just know that while I'm here, I'm going to live. I'm going to live every second, every day. I'm going to climb that mountain. I'm going to jump off that cliff. I'm going to do everything that I dream of doing while I'm here, because you get one chance. And if I'm lucky, I get 100 years. Only the good ones do. And you hit the nail on the head. You got to find that happy medium. You have to find that thing, that ruby, that diamond in the rough, the thing that makes your heart beat, pitter patter, and almost jump out of your chest, that excites you every day to wake up. Roy, you said it. You hit the nail on the head.
Balance is the key. Like you said, TJ, you can't forget about everything or whatever. You have to balance it. If I'm able to write 30 minutes, if I'm able to do this, if I'm able to do that, it's called balance. And that's the key, in balancing it all. And Roy, you said you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I know that some authors get their jump or their drive at 4 a.m. in the morning or 3 a.m. And that's when I feel like that's the time where everything is just calm and you're just able to hear clearly. Is that your 4 o'clock?
It started mostly with, that was when I worked kind of a weird split schedule. So some days I got up at 4:30 to get to work by 6. But then the other days I had my son with me. I was, remarried. We had started the more successful family now. And in fact, my son's back in the other room here. It's great. He's like 29 now, and he lives like 8 miles from me. which is just such a blessing. But that was more like, well, two things. I want to say these to answer your question. A seal, a seal had this great saying, which was, "If it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it's not,
Amen.
you'll find an excuse."
Excuse. Oh, yeah.
Amen. Knock
Yeah, I
on
just want to share my
everything
cup with
in
you.
the house.
Oh,
Excuse
Mm.
me. Excuse me while I succeed.
absolutely. Word
Amen.
up. Well, yeah. So the 430 became my way, and then it just became a pattern because I also discovered the value of the pattern, and which I had to learn a lot of things, but and I'd be glad to tell you all about what I learned again at 430. But before that, to go back to whoever the commenter, and thanks for that question. It's a great question. I had to. I'm a slow learner. I'm really literal, unfortunately. So it takes me a while to get things, but I when I was younger, I'm sure part of the appeal of being a writer was the alleged writer's life, you know. So for a time, that became more important to me, was I'm going to live the writer's life, and that was certainly part of jumping out of helicopters. I'm sure. We can't all be Jack London, but I tried. But you can get kind of. I, I I really got off track there for a while, and that really growing up with some dysfunctional family stuff. But for a while, the story, my belief was, if I wasn't, quote, a success as a writer, I was worthless, right? And that was poisonous. And you guys may have gone through this yourselves, but for me it was poisonous because, well, first it put all control of my life outside of me to this vague group of people who didn't know me at all, and for whatever, so, but it also poisoned my relationships because that meant my attitude, my feeling, my approach to life was up or down depending on what was the latest rejection,
Mm.
and there's a lot of rejection at the time, especially when we didn't have self-publishing. There was a lot of rejection. There were all the gatekeepers. So uh grace of God, 12-step work, stuff like that, and becoming a father really helped me kind of one day. It clearly was a process. It wasn't as sharp as deciding I wanted to be a writer at 10, because I still remember that moment. But it was a clear process. And one day it just suddenly hit me that it was more important to be a good father and a good person than it was to be a successful writer. Um, and and once I freed myself from that, because I mean that of course that put me, like I said, that having that prior belief put me at the mercy of all kinds of outside forces, and gave away all my power, all my in a way all my autonomy and sovereignty. But when I said, I'm just going to write what I write, and I'm going to tell the stories I want to tell, stories I'd like to read, basically.
Yeah.
Um, that was where most of the freedom came from,
Mm.
and certainly and unplugging from Hollywood helped a lot, because once I said, yeah, that's just not happening, and I'm not going to beat my brains out anymore, which is why I laughed. I won the first John Milius Screenwriting Award in 2018 for a screenplay that I'd written probably 20 years prior. It's
Wow.
like, it was good then. It's still good. It just wasn't the kind of good that they thought would make the money or whatever.
Yeah.
So to go back to the comment, that's where I started getting the balance. Was I went, okay, since I'm just doing this for me, I'm just gonna do it, and I'll do my best. But then at the same time, I know what's really important. I don't need to be a legendary writer. There's these writers, you hear more about what they do than you do about
Yeah.
the nonsense about Hemingway. Hemingway was a jerk, right? Ernest Hemingway was a jerk.
Mm.
He did stuff, but he drank and he cheated on his wife, and he was not a nice person,
Yeah.
right? Uh, so he wrote some good stuff, but he was not a good human being. And I think, and at the end of the day, I wanted to be a person I'd want to associate with. You start learning about the Hemingways and the whoever's, and you go, wow, they cheated on their wives and they drank and they betrayed their friends. God, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be part of that. So I'm just going to write, live my life as well as I can. And, my personal theology is that that we are on earth to be God's hands and feet, right? What we do makes
Mm-hmm.
God real in the world.
Yep.
So
That's
I'm
true.
okay with that. I'm okay with that. And then on the side, I'll write some stories. And if they amuse me or they interest me or surprise me, that's the best part of writing novels, by the way. It's when you get surprised by something you write. Does that happen to you, Miss Johnson? Just writing along like, wow, where'd that come from?
Yeah, and then I think that's the best writing for me when I just continue on, and then I don't know when to stop, but I have to kind of stop myself and gather my thoughts again to say it just took me into another world. So yes, I
Right,
understand.
right. Yeah, when you're like taking dictation, the characters are telling you what's happening, and anyway, so I just want to make sure that whoever had that comment guys saw the full context of where I got away from. I hope you can learn from my experience, and you don't have to be 40 years old like I was when you realize it. You
Well,
can write.
Roy, congratulations on getting the award. Although you
Oh,
wrote it 20 years ago, it's came back, and so congratulations on that.
That
it's the
that is
wife.
the
She's out of town. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. All right, I'm screening her call. She's gonna be really mad about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
that's the most glorious thing about writing and writers is once you put the words down, they live
Mhm.
forever. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter when you wrote it, that will be in the universe forever. And somebody could pick your work up 100 years from now and
Mhm.
it can resonate with them and you could change their life by something that you wrote. And sometimes that's what motivates me. Sometimes when I write, like I wrote my sister's memoir of her
Mm.
addiction of 25 years.
Oh.
And I wrote because after 25 years, we came together and we talked about her addiction because I left at the age of 19, which was about the time when she went heavy into her addiction. And I left to save myself because I could
Mhm.
not help them. I could not help my family. I could not help her. And I knew if I stayed, it would take me down.
Right.
So after I retired from the military, we sat down and we started to come back together because as children, we relied on each other to survive.
Mhm.
Abusive family, household, alcoholic mother, torn
Yeah.
apart family, and we watched domestic violence and all this other stuff happen to my mother. So we clinged on to each other just to survive that. But
Right.
then when she got older, she went into drug, and we split apart, and I left. So we came, and I wrote that story, me asking her questions and her telling me what she went through.
Mhm.
And the reason we wrote it was to show people of these, what she went through, but also these sisters coming back together as women now
Yeah.
and showing this whole life torn apart. These sisters that were thick as thieves, so close, relied on each other just to survive their childhood, torn apart by drugs, and
Yeah.
how they still were able to come back together. Now, 100 years from now, we don't know if the drug epidemic or endemic or whatever you call it is going to take the world over, or if it's going to be gone, and we live in this wonderful society where maybe someone will read it and see that and go, dang, that's how life was back then. That's why I write books like that, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
So your words mean something. Your words captivate someone. So even though 20 years ago and you just now win an award, thing is it's forever captured in time. It's a time.
Mhm.
Your words are a time capsule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, CJ, when you're not here,
Yeah.
they'll have meaning or they'll help someone else. So that's the reason
Uh,
why, writing the different books people write, you want it to be meaningful when you're not on the scene anymore and it's able
Yeah.
to help someone else.
yeah.
Uh, I actually agree with that, and you know, I think as writers, we actually have a responsibility. I personally, um, one of the things I was talking earlier about literature and how it just doesn't do much for me. It seemed that a lot of literature, and this may have just been a certain time period. What was considered literature was, let's see, life is terrible, people are awful, why bother at all? And I
Mm.
think that's crap, personally.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
be, um, but because life's a lot. Life is what you pay attention to in many ways, I think. And but I think I have a responsibility.
Mhm.
So I want to, you talk about the words you
Excuse me.
write. I you know I want to write stuff that ultimately ennobles and uplifts people. I mean,
Mm.
I
Mhm.
don't. I think there's no good thing that humanity can come up with that we can't also debase. My
Yeah.
old joke is, when Gutenberg got the printing press started, the first thing he printed was a Bible.
Mm.
But I'm pretty sure the second thing was a girly magazine, Naughty Nuns or something. I mean, it's the same with film, anything. So
Yeah.
some of the words living forever. Well, I think I whatever words live on after me, I want them to be words that are going to make somebody's life better.
Yeah.
Um, and this is a weird thing. I've gotten into a different Facebook group, and I was seeing a lot of different authors talk about their work, and and it was a little a little discouraging to realize people are making a lot of money writing smut. I went, oh,
That's where the money's at right now. Yeah.
there's somebody out there making $40,000 a month writing dinosaur porn, and I was like, wow,
Hmm.
I need to reconsider all my life choices, because
Listen, there's this whole thing, like, there's a whole thing with alien smut and stuff.
mm,
And I don't have any issues with any of it. To each their own. I don't have any issues with any of it. I think if it sells, I mean, if that's your literary works of art,
mm,
that's I think that there's a time and a place for everything. Everyone's opinions are their own. I choose not to write it. The characters don't jump out of here. It's not something that I actually was invited to. I talked to you last night, Elizabeth,
Yes.
about this. We
Mhm.
had this conversation. I got invited to a group, and I was like, I've never read an alien romance story. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. I want to read this. I want to see what this is about because it was a big thing. And
mm,
I started reading it, and um the aliens were raping these women um
yick.
that they were abducting, and
Hmm.
a lot of people were into that, and I couldn't get into it, so I left the group. And I didn't, and here's the thing, okay, I am very open to a lot of things,
Mm,
but my thing is I will agree to disagree. I did not bash them. I did not say
hmm,
anything negative or derogatory towards the group, because if that's their thing and that's what
Their
they
thing.
like to enjoy, then that's fine.
hmm,
For me, it wasn't my forte, so I quietly left the group. And I think
hmm.
that um, what people choose to read and write is their own thing. It's just not for me.
Right.
Um, I've wrote for the first time recently. I wrote a couple spicy romances,
Hmm.
and I will tell you, the most funniest thing ever. I sent it to a romance editor, and so I write contemporary romance. That is my thing that I enjoy. The closed door, don't say those type of words type of romance. The
Hmm.
sweet,
Hmm.
barely even kiss if you get
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So that I wrote my first one where there had to be like stuff happening. And I sent it to the editor, and she was like, "Are you scared to say the word penis?" And I was like, and she and all of her word things was like, she was like, "Say it, just say it." It was, it was the funniest editing job ever, and I
Oh,
adore her. I adore her for her critique, because it was so truthful, and it took a lot for me to get to where I needed to be to write in the more spicier genre, but I really liked the results and how it came about. It's a very uncomfortable place for me when I started, but I think it does sell a lot more than the cleaner stuff. But I think that if that's where you want to be, that's fine. I'm more comfortable in the cleaner stuff, but I can write a little spicier stuff, and it's not as
Spicy.
comfortable. I'm like a kid, like the whole time I'm writing it.
No, because the only thing I'm saying that, CJ, because I remember when you was talking about a book and you couldn't even see about kissing or anything like that. And I was like, CJ, the only thing they're doing is kissing in the book. You're like, no. So now saying all that, I mean, you have to feel comfortable in what's comfortable for you. I don't think the aliens or that would have been comfortable for me. But you did the right thing, CJ, by, letting out the group and not, going into them and telling them this is wrong, whatever, like that. You just left the group because it wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Listen, I called my mom. I said, Mom, I need to read you something.
Oh no, I don't know what that was about.
Needs to be a story about that by itself.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, Roy. That's a whole story about what she's going to talk about her mom.
And I started reading her the spicy stuff. And we're on FaceTime, right? We're on Facebook Messenger. And I started reading her, and I was like, and he moved his hand up her shirt to cup her, whatever. And she's like, oh no. And she closes her eyes. I said, Mom, why are you closing her eye? Why are you closing your eyes? She goes, I can't see this. I can't see this. I said, Mom, I'm reading the words. You can't see anything. She goes, no, stop.
But to her, but listen, CJ, but to her, Roy, sometimes when you're reading those words and it comes to life, and people are actually seeing, that dramatization coming to life. Right. So by you reading it to her and her closing her eyes, I'm guessing she was closing her eyes because she was seeing it, but that's how you want the words to come off the paper. The way they come off.
That's good writing when they can see it.
Yeah, that's good writing when it comes. That's really good writing if she's closing her eyes like that. That's really good.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
But that's what a writer is supposed to do. When you write, the reader is supposed to be able to envision the scene inside their head.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's those are the kind of books I like to write, in the sense that I want people to be like immersed in it. I want them to feel like they're in that world. The first novel series I wrote was this historical fiction. I don't know how your guys' ideas work, but I've discovered basically for novels, I've got to have a beginning image or incident, and I've got to have an ending. Ideas are always floating around. I'm sure they are, like for you guys, like. But for this novel series, I had this beginning image, and then all of a sudden, something that I thought about like 10 years after that came here, and they lined up. I said, "Wow! I just have to go from here to here." And so I have my beginning, and I fight my way to the finish, and that's. You learn as you go for me, but that's the kind of thing to do is I want people to be part of that world. So this was historical fiction. I had to do a lot of research for it, and but I wanted people to feel like they were there in that time period. And to go back to writing, I'm kind of with you. People's thing or their thing, but again, I'm not sure. While smut porn can be diverting, I'm not sure necessarily changes somebody for the better. That's just me. So I still want to write that stuff that I think that people are gonna come away from, I don't know, better, ennobled, uplifted in some way.
And I like what CK Timber just said. She said, "There's an audience for everything. Write what makes you happy."
Absolutely.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Write what makes you happy.
Right. No.
Yeah, everybody writes for their own individual reasons, and I think that they have to do what's in their heart and what they feel. And like Roy is saying, he wants to write to give people this sense of betterment after what they've read. And and I write some things that's just for pure entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
and to make them laugh or to make them feel a little spice under their clothes. And then I have my writing where I write that that empowers them and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes makes them cry and stuff like that. And I write for many different reasons. And taking it back to how you said you have a beginning and then you have an ending. I never have an ending. I
Oh, wow.
literally have this beginning that literally creates this emotion inside of me, and I can't,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Mm-hmm.
wait, and if it literally slips my mind, then I never create a folder for it. But if it won't leave my mind and it's literally nagging at me, then I will create a folder for it and I'll start writing, and then I'll allow the characters to take me where they want to go. And I'll start each
Yeah.
chapter and I'll be like, okay, what is this chapter? And they'll tell me what this chapter is,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll start a little 2 or 3 sentence what each chapter is supposed to be about, but I'll never be able to do the last chapter because they'll tell me where it's going to go. But I never
Mm.
have an ending until it happens. And then sometimes I'll be writing and I'll go, no, oh my God, no, you didn't. And I'll have to call Elizabeth and be like, you are not going to believe what just happened. And she's like, what? And she's thinking it's real life, but it's always a book.
That
My life is
is
so
real
boring.
life.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
life is so boring. It's always a book.
Okay. Well, it's funny you talk about that because uh, my my historical fiction is like six volumes, about 500,000 words altogether, I think. And I thought it
Wow.
was gonna be one book when I started. That's how little I understood writing
Wow.
myself. Um, and but I have, like I said, ideas all the time. And my current book series, you can see the over my shoulder here. You can see the book covers, but let's see. This is them now. That's the first one.
Can you bring it closer? Let's see it.
It's all shiny from my window. The Thing from HR.
Oh,
And
nice.
second book, Auditors of Doom.
Mm.
And then, God, I'm terrible at this camera thing. The Break Room of 1,000 Nightmares. I was, I spent basically about 6 years working on the historical fiction one, and people started to really enjoy it, and that was cool. And I have a seventh book in my head that I just haven't gotten to. But about 6 months after I was finally having success with this series, my high school girlfriend died, and
Mm.
clearly a long time ago. But she'd always been like my my first fan, first love, all that sort of stuff. So it hit me kind of hard. And then my mom died 6 months later.
Oh, wow.
So for about a year, I couldn't write. I was pretty racked by both those losses.
Mhm.
And again, I just had some weird random thought. And I don't know if you guys read any science fiction or fantasy when you were younger, but there's this whole genre of the H.P. Lovecraft stuff. Just a really whacked out guy who wrote some story, I think in about 1928, where he imagined he created this entire mythos called the Cthulhu mythos, and elder gods outside time and space, predating everything, that we're just sort of waiting for their own reasons to come into our world and take it over. Because it's been the basis of this entire genre of stuff now, and it's inspired movies and books and games. And it just came to me one day that every big organization, you're in the Air Force, you know that, everybody's got some kind of support organization. Any big organization or corporation, they got people who are, buying the toilet paper and writing travel checks and all that kind of stuff. And I figured, well, these big slathering tentacled things outside of time and space, they had to have some kind of organization too. And who would they be? So this is the story of a guy who works in HR, a thing actually that
Mm.
works in HR, but HR in their case stands for human restraint, because that's sort of their goal is to take us over. But these Cthulhu Mythos books are really dark and stuff, and I needed to write something goofy after that year I had. So
Oh.
this guy's a schlub. He's clueless. He thinks he's smarter than he is, and he gets from the dark dimensions that we can't really reach. He gets sent down to
Mhm.
Earth on a mission to try to figure out what he calls the hairless apes are up to. And
Mm.
that's my new book series. And that was a wild 180 from the historical fiction, which was very serious. And
Yeah.
it was about big issues. By the hands of men is what it's called, and the theme is the hands of men can make heaven or hell the earth, and it's up to us to decide what we're going to do.
Mm.
But with this one, I just decided it's going to be as goofy as I wanted to be, and I just let my mind run riot. And just recently, the first audiobook for that is out. But
And when did this series release?
actually, it's just recently released, last couple of months.
Okay, awesome. And how
And
many volumes?
3. And
3? Very cool.
if it has any appeal to you, I'd be glad to send you some codes for the audiobook to take a listen. I got this really great guy from England to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walk every day and I listen to audiobooks. I'm currently listening to Jennifer Lewis. She's hilarious. I love listening to anything that has comedy in it while I'm walking because I laugh and I forget that I'm walking because I hate moving now that I've retired. And Elizabeth was actually ROTC Marine when she was in high school. So she did the Marine
Hoorah!
Corps ROTC.
Hoorah.
So three veterans here. This is the
Yay.
motivational panel. Everybody remember these 3 faces. This is the motivational panel. We'll have to bring this back for some motivational talking in the author careers. And where can people get a hold of these, Roy? Since we're coming up on the hour, I want to make sure everyone gets a copy of these if they can.
Oh, well, actually, all my books are on Amazon right now. Roy
Okay.
M. Griffiths. The first volume, first series is By the Hands of Men. Starts in World
Nice.
War I, and it crosses 4 continents, 2 decades. A Russian immigrating nurse who's a volunteer nurse for the English. She meets a wounded English lieutenant, and they only spend a few weeks together, but that time stays with them as they sort of cross the world. And like I said, and the whole theme is the hands of men. What can the hands of men make of a world? What can our hands make of a world? And then if you're looking for something lighter, it's called the Cthulhu Amalgamated series. The first book is The Thing from HR. Our hero's name is Narg. Actually, he's a Shuggoth, and they're sort of this 10-foot tall amorphous being, but he gets stuffed into the body of a human in the first book, and he has to figure out humans as well as why he's there. And that's also on Amazon. That's just been re-released by Tuscany Bay Books. And the audiobook is going to be on most retailers the next week or so.
Awesome. If CK is still, CK Timber is still here, she can pop those links into the chat here, and then I'll be able to copy it and put it across all of the platforms so that everyone can. And then after we get off here, if you want to throw that in the chat, and I'll make sure it gets on the YouTube and the Facebook, and I'll make sure it also gets in the show notes for the podcast, because we're going to put this over on the podcast as well.
Cool.
I've got to get the podcast revived. I keep forgetting to get everything over there, but I'm going to get back on it because I've been a little lazy.
It was wonderful meeting you, Roy. Continue to inspire, impact, and empower us and others.
Oh, well, thank you. It was really nice chatting with you all. And if I'd known it was going to be on a podcast, I would have shaved or something. And I'm so new at this. I just suddenly really, oh, hey, look, there's a comments tab. What's on there? And so Raven Corpse, starving artist. You can be an artist and be a decent human being and pay your taxes. It's an amazing thing. But,
Amen. Amen.
So
yeah, we've had a couple of people chime in here, and you can definitely go back and chat with them in the comments. It's always, they love to talk a one-on-one with the guests here. So I try to bring in the comments and make sure we talk about those during the show. But after the show, if you want to go in and talk to them one-on-one, they definitely love doing that. And we'd love to have you back sometime. The author chats are always up there. I'll extend those out, and I know that we're going to schedule you for a one-on-one for the author's porch for an interview. So I will get with you to get that one-on-one scheduled. It's been great. This has been a great author chat.
Awesome.
I enjoy these because it gives insight into just the world of authoring, the world of literature, for anyone to listen to, for the authors out there who sit in the silence, because writing is a solitary career a lot of times, and some people get discouraged. I've had a lot of people say, I'm thinking about giving up. I've thought about giving up myself at some point. So these things help them understand to keep going, because you never give up on something that you love. So thank you so much for being here, Roy. Elizabeth, it's always great to see you every single
Thank you.
Saturday, and
Yes,
I'll be calling you afterwards because we kind of talk
absolutely.
all the time. So, Roy, do you have any parting words before we head out, or a website where you want to direct people other than Amazon?
Well, you can go to my website, which is Roy M. Griffiths Storyteller. Parting words, you know, um, I would say, just be honest. You've got me on the spot. I usually have words for this. So if you want to, if you're a creative person, honor that. But again, I would say, it's probably important to be faithful to your art, but also be respectful of your humanity and everybody else's. So don't be a jerk.
Amen.
Be an artist, but don't be that jerk artist.
Amen.
That's good.
Elizabeth, parting words?
Well, continue to like, click, and share all the information, and come and join us every Saturday, 10 Central, 11 Eastern, and on the Author's Porch, where every good conversation happens, and we talk about author things and just let our hair down and just talk about the good things that authors go through, and sometimes the bad things that we go through as well.
Okay.
Amen. Until next time, my friends, from the Author's Porch. Go ahead, Roy.
I was going to say thank you, ladies, and I'm sorry I talk so much. I'd like to learn more about both of you all, but I'll be back and we'll find out more.
Yes, absolutely.
Amen. Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
The Author's Porch is a certified veteran-hosted podcast. Show your support, tune in, share, and subscribe.